Template versus differential. Which wildcard team is actually the best for game week 8? In today's video, I've made two separate wildcard teams, one based on fully popular template picks and one fully based on entirely differential players. So, which wildcard's going to win? Well, let's find out. Welcome back to the channel. We're here with a brand new style of video that's fresh, that I hope you guys are going to enjoy. On weeks where wildcards seem to be a bit more popular than others, I'm going to maybe make these style of videos focusing on a template team and then a differential team for a wildcard in that week. It should give you a full overview of the players I quite like for both template and differential reasons. If you are brand new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. I make FPL videos to help you guys at home, and by just clicking that little red button, it does massively support the channel. We're so close to 1,000 subs. Make sure you like today's video as well. The like goal is 10 likes, but we're getting kicked off here with the template team, and I think the strongest part of this team I'm actually going to start first with, and that's the Arsenal defence. The double up on the Arsenal defence. I think regardless of differential, template, however you want to take things, these two players for me are really, really solid for a wildcard 8 draft. And I'm probably going to consider on my wildcard this week having this two partnership of David Raya and Gabriel. Arsenal are just really solid, really consistent at the back, and I don't think you can really go wrong with both of these assets. In all honesty, there's a player within the differential section of the video which we'll talk about from the Arsenal defence, but we'll save that to the next section. We've also got Senesi here, and I think the fixtures are going to get a bit trickier now. But at the end of the day, Senesi has achieved death cons in 6 out of 7 fixtures. And in that game that he missed, he actually got subbed a little bit earlier than normal. I think he's an absolute monster for that reason. And if he does manage to get a clean sheet here and there, it's a really big haul, isn't it? So, yeah, Senesi's not a bad pick in my eyes. Of course, a little bit more expensive than he was at the start of the season, but I think you're paying for consistency there. You've got Van de Ven, and Van de Ven's one of these players in the team today that I'm not 100% sure of. There's a few dotted around, but the majority of players here are really, really consistent. Van de Ven, I think Spurs defensively have really improved under Thomas Frank. Drastically, almost. I mean, look at how they're performing compared to last season. The problem is with Van de Ven in the Spurs defence, we don't really see too many defensive contributions, and that's not entirely the problem. You know, we don't have to have defensive contributions from our defenders. It just helps a little bit with consistency of points, but Spurs don't seem to have that one asset that's amazing for defensive contribution points, and that kind of takes us to a place where we're relying on clean sheets, but Spurs are still conceding a few odd goals, which isn't the best thing to have from your centre-back, but at least Van de Ven is quite cheap in FPL, but again, very template and high owned. Same with Kudus now. Kudus has been one of those players I've had in FPL in my personal team for the last few weeks. And I've always mentioned in my videos for the past few weeks that he's just missing that goal threat. And we've seen a little bit of that in his last fixture. But I'm just worried that perhaps with the harder teams, is he still going to have that impact he had similar to last week? We'll have to wait and see on that, but I think he's been performing at a really high standard for Spurs, and a lot of Spurs fans coming into my live streams have said he is clearly our best player, so very interested to see how he does in the next few weeks of FPL. You've got Semenyo here. I don't really need to bore you with how good this guy is, do I? I really don't. Just an animal, just an absolute animal. I think there will be a time where it kind of catches up to him and his attack and returns do slow down. It's going to happen. If it doesn't, he's probably going to get bought in January by someone massive because the rate he is going is ridiculous. But what he did to Fulham, I think, showed a lot of determination of his character, and he's been training so hard in the off season, and I think personally as a footballer I appreciate him massively. He's just so great, but we'll move on from him because we all know how good he is. Reinders is one that I'm not too sure on, including in this list today. Obviously very template, a lot of people own him. Some decent-ish fixtures. It's kind of coming up for City and teams like Liverpool, the fixtures aren't like amazing. It's more so Arsenal and Chelsea where you could really look to kick on with some really great fixtures in the next few weeks. But Reinders isn't too bad of an asset in my eyes. Having good minutes for Manchester City in the midfield is incredibly, incredibly rare. And he is a fantastic footballer, and he is getting chances, and he has done in the past few weeks. It just hasn't really went his way. We've got Bruno Fernandes in this list. I don't think he's so much template now. I think he's around 15 to 16% ownership. But still, I think picking a template team, I've put Bruno in today. And it's kind of one of them ones where I'm completely on the fence. If you watched yesterday's video, my transfer tips video, you would have realised that Bruno Fernandes he's on the verge of being a great asset, but he's just not consistent enough to have in your team for 9 million, I feel. And that's kind of the vibe I'm going with Bruno Fernandes. But I still think he's a decent asset. I just need a little bit more consistency from him, and hopefully he stays on penalties. You got Gyökeres, who isn't now on penalties for Arsenal, but has a really good run of fixtures coming up. I think anyone playing up front for Arsenal should get a few goals in the Premier League, and I think it's a matter of time until they start coming in for Victor Gyökeres. But yeah, been very frustrating to own him in the last few weeks of FPL. Haaland. Don't need to say much about him. Similar to Semenyo, been smashing it for Manchester City. He just is the robot of Manchester City. He's absolutely crazy. So good. Obviously captained in this team. You've got João Pedro in as well for his start of his really good fixtures against Forest away from home. I do think he's fantastic as a footballer. He's been very quiet for Chelsea lately, though. So perhaps these good fixtures give him a bit more, license to really attack teams. He has been facing some pretty difficult situations in the Chelsea team, red cards, injuries to other players in the team, making the team a bit less solid. But yeah, I think that overall 11's really good. You got Gehi, Dubravka, Esteve and Josh King on the bench. Josh King's the differential player of this team. It's just what I had left with the money I had, but everyone else pretty template. But I actually don't think it's a bad team at all. Really solid for me. I would maybe change I'd maybe change Reinders, Bruno Fernandes ever so slightly to someone else more differential, but the team's really good. We're going to go now and check out the differential team, though. A team entirely made of differential assets. Moving on to the differential team, and I actually really like it. I think the best course of action for a Wildcard 8 team, though, is probably to combine both teams, in all honesty, and that's what I might do in tomorrow's video when I share my team selection for Game Week 8 Wildcard. So make sure you subscribe for that. It's completely free, and you, of course, can change your mind if you don't like the content on the channel. But we're going to get stuck in with the differential team here, starting with Robin Roofs in goal. And of course, I'm a Sunderland fan. I had to pick one of the boys, and to be honest, he's just an amazing asset for FPL in my eyes as a rotational keeper. You've of course got Dubravka at 4 million, a cheaper option if you want to save money, but being a differential team, we actually don't have any of the big boys of Salah or Haaland, so it's allowed us to really improve a lot of positions in the team here. So Nick Pope as the bench asset for this week in particular against Brighton away, and then this week the home fixture for Robin Roofs against Wolves at home. I think it's a really good pairing across the next few weeks of FPL, but what a keeper he is, by the way, for us. We'll move on to Munoz. Of course, a little bit of a differential asset here with low ownership. I think going forward for Palace, he is absolutely unbelievable. He's basically a right winger at times. And of course, a Bournemouth at home fixture isn't exactly the best thing you could hope for this week. But going longer term, I think Palace has some pretty decent fixtures coming up in the Premier League. You got Gvardiol as well. Very low ownership, which I'm surprised at. I think it's probably to do with the fact he was out the team for so long at the start of the season, hit or miss whether he's going to play. Now he's back consistently. I think he's probably the glue for that defence, in all honesty. I think he's really up there with one of the best defenders in the league. He's just so intelligent, and I think going forward as well, he makes his impact at times. So Gvardiol is in the team as one of my City assets. Now, the most popular and highest owned player in this team is actually Julian Timber. He's at, I believe, 18% ownership, and everyone else in the team, I think, is under or just around 10% ownership. The reason I've went with Timber as a sort of differential option here is because a lot of people have gone Gabriel, a lot of people have gone David Raya, so we're going to battle that with the fullback option from the Arsenal defence. I think going forward in attack and return wise, he's clearly better than the other defenders. He just seems to be so advanced at times. When you watch Arsenal, just look in the box when they go forward. You'll sometimes just see Timber standing there and you're like, what on earth are you doing in the box, mate? But yeah, it's really interesting. He's not exactly a differential in terms of ownership. 18% owned is pretty high for this team anyway. But yeah, I think I've combated the Arsenal defence of Gabriel and Raya with Julian Timber here as a differential option to them. Moving on to another Arsenal asset, which I honestly don't understand why he's so low owned still. I think it was around 10% yesterday when I made 10% ownership when I made this graphic. It's Bukayo Saka. Seems to be on penalties now for Arsenal. I had him from game week 7, and on my own personal wildcard team, he's probably going to be in there as one of my midfielders, I believe at 9.9 million. He just seems fantastic value out of sort of that price range. There's sort of Cole Palmer's injured. You don't need to be picking him. Maybe we've missed a boat on Foden as well. So Saka seems to fall in place quite nicely into a wildcard 8 team. And I think he's a really great asset, especially with the fixtures coming up for Arsenal in the next few weeks of FPL. We've gone, of course, massively differential with Phil Foden. There's a few players I could have considered in the midfield for Manchester City, but I feel Phil Foden will probably have the better minutes out of some of them. I was debating going Doku, Oscar Bob even. I think Oscar Bob's a fantastic player for Manchester City. His minutes just aren't going to be reliable though, so I've went for Phil Foden here. Still a differential asset, and I think he will make his impact in this Manchester City team going into the next few weeks. We then have a Night Managers approved pick in Ismail Assar. If you don't know who Night Managers are, they are the best FPL algorithm in the game. I've got a code with them this season. I'm partnered with them. There's a link in the description. If you use code FPL Moves, you're going to get a 2 free week trial to their services, and then a further 20% off your first build month if you choose to stay with them after the 2 free weeks. So definitely check that out in the description using code FPL Moves. But Ismail Assar is an approved pick by their algorithm, and I think it's for really, really good reason. I think Ismail Assar, his date is fantastic. Palace look unbelievable as a team. He's kind of the force that drives the team up at times. When he was missing and injured within that Palace team, we really, really saw a difference. And for me, I think it's a fantastic player to consider in any wildcard team, in any team coming up in FPL. I think he's a fantastic, fantastic asset to own in FPL. We've got Paqueta as well. Now, Paqueta in this team, it's a bit of a punt, of course, similar with Jarrod Bowen up top, but we'll speak about him separately. Brentford at home's a great fixture. They've got good fixtures coming up, in all honesty. But we're kind of looking at a new manager bounce here. We've called Paqueta sort of the baby Fernandes, but Fernandes has been really inconsistent. So well, hopefully Paqueta is a little bit more consistent, but I think he's on penalties for West Ham. We'll have to double check that, hopefully, in the next few weeks. But if he is, he gets defensive contribution points as well, and just is a decent little player. So I think for the price you're paying for him, with the fixtures coming up, he's actually not a bad differential option in all honesty. We'll continue the flow of conversation from West Ham asset to West Ham asset though with Jarrod Bowen here. Now, the captaincy was really between him and Isak. I went with Isak just because it's Manchester United at home, but we'll start speaking about Bowen instead, sorry. I think he's going to be a really important player for Nuno's new team. I just really, really like Jarrod Bowen right now. If you asked me a few weeks ago, I would never have touched Jarrod Bowen as an FPL asset probably this season under Graham Potter. But now under Nuno, I don't know. I think he could be a really alright option to pick on a game week wildcard or just in general in FPL. The fixtures coming up look really, really strong. So I'm considering him personally on my wildcard as well now. We spoke a little bit about Isak and captain against Manchester United at home. Of course, Isak and Liverpool, this is probably one of the bigger punts of the list because Liverpool just haven't been ticking at all. Something's missing. We spoke about it so many times on the channel now. I think people are getting sick of it, in all honesty, in terms of owning their assets. And I think this could be an alright time to bring in a Liverpool asset in FPL. And the fixtures kind of turn a little bit, and of course there's a good fixture this week against Manchester United at home. So if you've got a Liverpool player, you could consider them as captain this week, which is why I put Alexander Isak in this team. I think he will play up top going forward for Liverpool, especially in the Premier League. So yeah, that's why Alexander Isak's in there. And of course, I've got a bit of spare money with not having Haaland and Salah. So we really pushed up to that high price point of Alexander Isak there. But it could have been Ollie Watkins as well, who I think will start to find a little bit of form in the Premier League. Got Jean-Philippe Mateta as well, with of course the triple Palace that we've got set up here. Arsenal and Palace play next game week, so that's why I've got a few bench options that I'm going to cover over. But Mateta seems like a really solid option in FPL. The past few weeks he's been a bit unlucky not to get attack and returns, in my opinion. He's had some really big chances, but just hasn't went his way on the football pitch. But as I said, Arsenal and Crystal Palace play next week. We've got Minte on the bench when he plays, I believe, United away from home. And we've got Tosin as well, who has some pretty good fixtures coming up for Chelsea. So he can interchange in the team whenever. We've also got Rodon, who's a really good option in my eyes. And of course, Nick Pope on the bench there to replace Robin Roofs next game week. But this differential team, I think, is really fun. Really good team. I think solid. The only players you're missing are kind of like Semenyo, Haaland, possibly a Senesi or someone like that in defence who's quite high owned, possibly a Gabriel in all honesty. But I think mixing both teams is probably the course of action I would take with the Game Week 8 wildcard. We'll see how we get on in tomorrow's video, my Game Week 8 team selection, where I've got my wildcard active in FPL. So make sure you subscribe for that, of course, and keep an eye out for that video. But yeah, that is the differential team. Let me know in the comments which team you prefer as well, the template one or the differential one. Tomorrow you can expect my final team selection for Game Week 8, and of course I'm on a wild card, so it's going to be a big video, so make sure you're looking out for that one. I always outro my videos with a massive thank you for all of your support on today's video and the channel. If you did enjoy today's video though, go ahead and click that like button. If you aren't yet subscribed to the channel, do consider subscribing for future FPL content and FPL streams. But that is everything for today's video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.